Yes. Uncle Lou's favorite topic of conversation, Georgia's quarterback situation. Today we're going to talk about the QB room at Georgia heading into spring practice, which, by the way, for Georgia starts, I believe, on March 15th, with the G-Day spring game coming up about a month later, the 2nd or 3rd April or Saturday in April. So I want to talk about the QB room heading into spring and what the QB room might look like after spring. I think it could look different. Of course, Stetson Bennett has decided to return for his 11th season in college, and he will be the presumed starter. And look, regardless of mine or anyone else's feelings about Stetson Bennett, where you love him, hate him, or somewhere in between, if you're the quarterback of a national title winning team, you have every right to decide for yourself whether you want to come back or not. And you probably should be the presumed starter, regardless of what you did or didn't do, regardless of who's behind you. So I have no beefs, no qualms with that. I do think, do I think Kirby will come out and declare Stetson the starter anytime, ever? No, I don't. I think he's going to do the same song and dance and rigmarole pretty much that he always does with the whole, we're going to play the player that gives us the best chance to win routine that, is his favorite speech to give. I do think that person will ultimately be Stetson Bennett, in week one, barring an injury. I'm skipping way ahead. Not even talking about spring, but barring an injury to Stetson Bennett, in my opinion, he's starting against Oregon week one. I don't see any way possible that doesn't happen. Now, who starts week 2, week 5, week 10? Hell, anybody's guess is as good as mine. But let's talk about the QB room right now. You got Stetson Bennett. Behind him, you've got Carson Beck, who will be heading into his 3rd year in Athens. You have Vandergriff heading into his 2nd year. And then you've got Gunnar Stockton, true freshman, early enrollee, so he'll be there for spring drills. And there's another walk-on for those of you who are looking for the next UGA Rudy. Jackson Muschamp, Will Muschamp's son, is on the team as well as a walk-on QB. So that's basically your quarterback room heading into spring practice. JT Daniels, of course, has announced he's transferring. He has not transferred yet, and everybody's got their own opinion on why that is. Everybody's got a cousin who has a neighbor who cuts hair of the person that dog walks, somebody that goes to church with JT Daniels' uncle and knows the real story. All I know for sure is that he's one semester away from graduating this current semester, and that's the most likely. That's the scenario that's most likely to be true in terms of why hasn't he transferred if he's in the transfer portal. Yeah, some people are saying, well, he's not any good, nobody wants him, he's too injured, nobody wants him. Look, somebody wants him. Somebody will take him. Look around college football. Lots of teams are desperate for QBs. Is JT Daniels going to be an NFL player or a Heisman candidate? Probably not. But there's a lot of places around college football where he could land and most likely start for his final year in college, right? So, why hasn't he transferred? I believe that, this is his last semester. He's going to graduate. Plus, he already transferred once. So, once he graduates, he doesn't have to sit out. And who knows? He may already know where he's going. I don't know what he's majoring in, but it could be wherever he's going does not offer that degree program, so that's why he's staying at Georgia. I don't have any idea, but he won't be practicing at Georgia during spring. You won't see him. He's just enrolled as a student and taking classes. He'll transfer after spring semester, so that's that. So you got Stetson Bennett. My biggest question the spring games, spring practice in general, people have different or varying opinions on how much you can really take from spring practice as a fan. I mean, like watching it and go, oh, well, this guy did that. That means this. Spring practice is so watered down. It's hard to look at it that way. What I have found over the years from doing this on YouTube and hearing from all of you guys in the comment section and on the call-in shows and stuff like that when it comes to spring practice, there's a couple of primary things that people tend to look for in spring practice. The first one is the true freshmen that early enrolled in January. People are excited to see them. Why? Well, because you've never seen them before, right? This is their first time donning your team's helmet and, maybe they were very highly recruited. Maybe they, a 5-star. Maybe it's somebody that you've been following their recruitment for a couple of years. And so you're just excited to see these freshmen practice and play in the spring because you've never seen it before. This is particularly true for quarterbacks. Everything is, gets enhanced when it comes to the quarterback. So the attention level, all that kind of stuff. So in Georgia's case, Gunnar Stockton. And this kind of ties into the second thing that, at least from what I hear over the years, that people like to look for in spring practice, and that is who's going to be the quarterback, or if that's determined, who's going to be the backup quarterback. People love to watch spring practice and spring games and try to figure out the depth chart at the quarterback position. I think Stetson Bennett will go into spring as QB1 and come out of spring as QB1, like I mentioned. But who's going to be QB2? And this is where my number 2 reason ties in with my number 1 reason. I'm curious who's going to be the number 2, and I'm curious to see Gunnar Stockton, and those two things go hand in hand. Carson Beck is the most veteran of the backups, a junior. Then Vandergriff, sophomore, Gunnar Stockton, freshman. My own personal opinion, which doesn't matter at all, in the long run, I think Gunnar Stockton will be the best quarterback between Carson Beck and Brock Vandergriff. I also like Brock Vandergriff over Carson Beck. That's just from the limited things I've seen of them. That's just my own opinion. Now, if you look at Gunnar Stockton's not playing this year. I mean, I think we can just take that off the table. With an 11th year senior, Stetson Bennett, a 3rd year junior, and a 2nd year 5-star in Brock Vandergriff, I find it very, very, very unlikely that Gunnar Stockton plays 1 snap for Georgia at quarterback this year. Maybe some late 4th quarter handoffs if we find ourselves in a 30 or 40 point game and the other quarterbacks have already played, like maybe the backup plays the entire 3rd quarter and half the 4th quarter, and then maybe they send Gunnar in. So you might see a little bit of that, about like what we saw Brock Vandergriff last year. I mean, what did Brock Vandergriff play last year? 10, 15 snaps, whatever it was, something like that. That's what I think you'll see from Gunnar Stockton. Now, as far as who's going to be the number 2 QB, that's obviously important. Players can get hurt at any time. And, it could be that even if Stetson doesn't get hurt, we find ourselves in a position where we're looking to make a change there. That is possible. I think it's going to be Brock Vandergriff, and I think what that probably means is that we lose Carson Beck after spring practice. One thing everybody has to keep in mind, we love to, complain and cry about the transfer portal. Players have until June 1st to enter the transfer portal, and they can still play this season. You're going to see a lot of players go into spring practice trying to solidify a spot on the depth chart where they think they should be, whether that's starting or backup. In this case, backup, we're talking about the QB situation at Georgia here. Carson Beck's going into his 3rd year. Now, he redshirted, so he's got plenty of eligibility. But if we come out of spring practice, right, where Stetson Bennett is to clear number 1, and it appears as though Brock Vandergriff is to clear number 2, so you've got Carson Beck, a junior, who has been bumped behind a sophomore, Brock Vandergriff, I think that means we probably lose Carson Beck. And while you never really want to lose anybody, I would be okay with that. And in my opinion, it would be completely understandable. Carson Beck was a highly rated recruit, a high 4-star out of Florida, won the Gatorade Player of the Year, I believe, in the state of Florida, his senior year. And if it looks like he's just not going to get an opportunity at UGA, you wouldn't be able to blame him if he decided to transfer, right? I think one of those two is gone. I don't think Carson Beck and Brock Vandergriff will be on Georgia's roster when we play Oregon week 1. Like I said, that's not me wanting one of them to transfer. I'm not necessarily for or against either one of them when it comes to Brock or Carson Beck. I just happen to think maybe Brock's a little bit better. But, we'll see. But I do think one of those two will transfer between the end of spring practice in the middle of April and June 1st when the deadline is to enter the portal. I think you'll see that. I just can't see both of those guys sticking around another year, either of them, if they're 3rd. I think whoever's QB2 will stick around. Obviously, Gunnar Stockton's not going to go anywhere this year. So you're going to come out of spring, I think, with 3 pretty good quarterback options as opposed to the 4 we have now, right? Right now, Stetson Bennett, Carson Beck, Brock Vandergriff, Gunnar Stockton. You're losing one of those, in my opinion, after spring. I think it's going to be either Carson Beck or Brock Vandergriff. And if I had to put money on which one, my money would go on Carson Beck. So I think that's what will that's what will happen. I am excited for spring practice to get underway. I mean, if nothing else, it gives us some kind of football to talk about during this time of year when they don't play any games, right? And a lot of schools have already started spring practice. Hell, there's already been some spring games. There's a bunch of spring games yesterday. Coastal Carolina held their spring game last Thursday. Now, none of your quote-unquote big boys, the Power 5 teams, are kind of just getting ramped up. Clemson started their spring practice a few days ago. Like I said, Georgia starts on March 15th. All of the schools will be underway with spring practice over the next couple of weeks, right? It doesn't matter. There's no rules or laws or whatever that says you have to have spring practice from this time to that time. Schools can pick and choose when they want to have the spring practice. The only thing that's regulated is the number of practices, right? I think, is it 20? It's 15 or 20. It's a particular number. Teams are allowed to have this many practices during spring practice. When they hold those practices is up to the team. You can hold them 20 days in a row, although no one does that. They spread them out. If you pay attention to spring practice, they'll practice on Monday, and they won't practice on Tuesday, and they'll practice on Wednesday, maybe short practice on Friday, a scrimmage maybe on Saturday, and they do that for a 3 or 4 week period, practicing 3 or 4 days a week over a 3 or 4 week period, culminating, of course, in most cases, with every team's annual spring game, which is a ton of fun, by the way, and I'll make some videos specifically about the spring game when it gets a little bit closer. If you have never been to your team's spring game, you really need to go. It's a totally different experience, obviously, than going to an actual game in the fall. Well, at least at Georgia. I can't speak to any other spring games. I've never been to any. I've heard from other fans, and they absolutely love their team's spring game, too. The Georgia spring game it's like I said, it's totally different than an actual game. It's fun and exciting in a totally different way. There's no stress involved about, is my team going to win or lose? It's a lot of fun. If you have an opportunity to attend your team's spring game and you've never attended one, you should really consider it. It really is a lot of fun. Anyway, that's my thoughts on Georgia's quarterbacks heading into the spring and then heading out of the spring. JT Daniels already in the portal, going to pick a school after he graduates in May, I believe it is. That leaves us with Bennett, Carson Beck, Brock Vandergriff, and Gunnar Stockton. I believe we lose one more of those after spring. I think that one that we lose will be Carson Beck. If it's not Carson Beck, it'll be Brock Vandergriff, but I think it'll be Carson Beck. And we'll head into the season basically with Stetson Bennett as your 1. This is just my guess. Brock Vandergriff as the 2, and Gunnar Stockton as the 3. Just my guess. Let me know down below what you think. Do you think we'll keep all those QBs? Or do you think one will transfer after spring? And if you do think one will transfer, who will it be? I don't know.